Time to move on to our movie of the week, which again, just a reminder, I'm not saying this is the best movie this week. If you're asking me what the best movie I thought I saw was, it's Scrapper, but you can make up your own mind on it. But it's the movie that requires kind of a bit of attention and a bit more focus, so we're not going to do a 60-second review. Let's talk about The Equalizer 3, which sees 68-year-old Denzel Washington rolling back the years for the third and final installment of what you'd probably say ended up being his defining action franchise, and of what I describe as kind of the Denzel action movie, i.e., these action thrillers, which are probably quite like bland and generic and boring, if anything, if they didn't have one of the defining actors of our time at the helm. In the movie, Washington reprises the role of retired Marine Robert McCall, now living in Italy, trying to take down the mafia for reasons that are never actually fully explained. They just never get into that. It's just he's here and just accept it. And we're like, okay, fine, it's Denzel. We want to like it, so we will. He ends up falling in love with the place and finding a home and a sense of belonging amongst the Naples locals, which calls him into action once he sees the impact the mob is having on the town. And I heard one review of this, which was very clever, where basically it's just Denzel's character in this, Robert McCall, is just fucking nosy. He just sticks his nose in all three movies where it doesn't belong. No one's asking him to get involved. He's just like, I see this is wrong, therefore I'm going to insert myself into the action and murder everyone who I feel has done wrong in my eyes. Behind all the gang are back together again. You've got training day director Antoine Fuqua again on directorial duties, while you've got Richard Wenk, Michael Sloan, and Richard Lendheim writing it again. And for a franchise that's kept its core group so consistently at the helm, which is rare with these type of action franchises, it's really odd to say that, having recently done a rewatch of the first two, very close to seeing this, it's a franchise that has struggled to hold on to its consistent identity. The first, for me, I loved the first Equalizer movie. I thought it was a revelation. It set up Denzel as essentially, again, some people call him nosy. I'm going to be generous and say he's a Robin Hood style figure, happy living a humble life, but at any stage able to kind of hack it into an elite set of skills to dish out retribution to those he sees deserve it. The sequel was a fine action movie on its own merit, owing largely to Denzel getting to play across from the always excellent Pedro Pascal, but it struggled when put beside the original in tone. They felt just very differently. And I'd say the same about this, to be honest. As another kind of Denzel action movie, this is fine. It's grand. It's a fun Saturday at the movies. He can still go and he can still play this role as well as anyone else. He's still a magnetic, transfixing screen presence that exudes star quality. Like, there's a couple of times when he just let out a big smile for no reason, and the whole screen just like started laughing. You know what I mean? They just were like, "Yeah, we like you, Denzel," and it's just he's just got it. Whatever it is on the screen, he has it, and his age doesn't inhibit him one bit in being able to keep up with the intense action sequences. But the movie itself, it kind of reminds me of, and this is a strange comp, I know, but it reminds me of Die Hard 4, and that the franchise it's trying to fit into is like almost an anvil around its neck, because you can only notice how unlike the other movies it is if you actually care enough to have watched the other movies and follow it, which, to be honest, you don't need to do. You can just jump in here and enjoy it for what it is if you want. And you'll probably enjoy it even better than a lot of the people who care about the franchise do. It feels like more of a spiritual successor to 2004's Denzel action movie, Man on Fire. Firstly, because so much of it relies on the goodwill of seeing him reunited with Dakota Fanning, who he started across from whilst he was a child in the latter movie. And to be honest, again, that's a gimmick, if I'm being honest, because I genuinely have no idea what her character offered to this one. The story would have worked just fine without her. And if anything, they kept having to kind of shoehorn it back in. They're like, oh, remember Dakota Fanning? That's what she's doing now. That's what that character's at. Like, remember, she's involved. And it's like, yeah, okay. But again, like, she's not a part of this franchise. So it's not like a cool reunion where you have to fit her in the sequel. It's just, she's just there. She's just there. And it's like, I know you guys all made these movies, but did you think you were making a sequel to Man on Fire? Because that's what it feels like. It's also much more cinematic and epic than the previous movies, which again is what Man on Fire was. It's like, well, the original thrived off feeling kind of low key and down to earth in a way that the intense kind of action then caught you off guard. This is much bigger. It's shot really dramatically. Like the lighting is spectacular at times. Like you see like kind of darkly lit alleyways, but then like there's a big spotlight and then you see Denzel walking through it like a cool guy. He doesn't look at explosions. You know what I mean? And that's fine. Like, but again, that's not the tone of movie that the Equalizer was. And then you've got the character beats, and they do pay a cursory nod to, you know, Robert McCall's OCD, his kind of napkin folding ways. But instead of kind of being this beacon of morality, doling out justice as he sees fit, but as well, like kind of, you know, what was good about the character and what kind of set him apart as an action character was he always gave the bad guys a choice. He's always like, look, in the original one, like when he first kind of the first time we got to see him in action, you know, again, I'm talking about more fucking child sex trafficking after Sound of Freedom. I'm really sick of this subject, but like he sees Chloe Grace Moretz's, you know, child prostitute. He tries to buy her out from her pimp, and he offers him money, and then the pimp rejects him and says, "I can make that much in a week with her." And then like he's like, "Okay, well, you had your chance," and that was kind of his gimmick. It's like, I'll give you a chance to say no and walk away, but if you don't, I'm gonna, you know, go full Liam Neeson, like you've taken my daughter. But here, Robert McCall has almost multiple Mike Myers style murderous rampages. Like it is fucking intense at times. There's no like, I'll give you a chance to walk away. Please don't make me do this. He's kind of a psychopath who seems to be looking for reasons to viciously destroy everyone in the room. And also, like, he has a new habit, which we haven't really seen before, of leaving his gruesome bodies in public places as a warning then for others. Like it's like that's proper, like that's like serial killer material there, Denzel. Which then he then just magically goes back to being like the happy, vibrant community guy. And I was like, guys, he's a fucking maniac. Don't trust. He just murdered 17 people and didn't even blink and ate a fucking apple after it, like without even reacting to being. He didn't even blink about, like, you know, he saw the light in a man's eyes just turn off and he just was like, I'm hungry, what's for dinner? That's not a person to have around your children in this beautiful community. And look, I can hear myself, okay? I'm probably thinking too much about this. Maybe that's not the purpose. And like I said, it is a fun, leave your brain at the door Saturday night at the cinema. It is. This is a good movie. I actually enjoyed this movie. I'm just overthinking it perhaps. Go watch Denzel, go watch some fun action sequences, go have some fun in the cinema. But if you're expecting anything remarkable, and I guess kind of the reason I'm making this point is, if you do have any investment in the characters that you're hoping this will stay true to, and it'll kind of serve as a kind of put a full circle moment on the Equalizer franchise, it's not any of that. Like, instead, go watch Man on Fire first and then come back and you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. It's a sequel to that movie. Because I think that's what they've got this mixed up with. Again, good movie, but just it was just a Denzel action movie. It was terrible, but Denzel was there, so it was pretty fucking good in the end.